I'm impatient, so I can't wait any longer, and I have to try to make my first batch of soap. I don't have distilled water, but I'm gonna do it anyways, and cross my fingers that it's gonna work. Our water is pretty hard, so we'll see, but whatever. First batch, gonna go for it. So I've gathered up all my supplies and I'm excited to get started. So the thing that every single recipe stresses over and over again is you must have your safety gear. So got my safety gear. This looks a little sketchy because I have these ski goggles because Ian told me that he had safety glasses and I went outside and he did, but the lens was gone. So those weren't going to work very good. So I found these and, you know, this will work better than the dollar store ones. And then I just need to buy a proper pair. And then I'm going to use this for when working with the lye. You know, I don't want to breathe in any lye if some powder puffs up, and the lye also is supposed to off gas, so you know, safety first. And then you need your gloves and you have to wear long sleeves. So I'm all ready for that. I have some molds, I have some bowls. I'm gonna use this as a mold. I got my oils, I got my water, I got a cup to put my lye in. I got my stick blender. I have my lovely recipe book. I'm gonna make tried and true soap from The Natural Soap Making Book for Beginners by Kelly Cable. This is the one that she recommends you do first, so that is what I'm going to be doing. Okay guys, be honest with me. How safe do I look? Do I look ultimate safe? Next up is I'm going to measure up my oils. This recipe calls for coconut, tallow, and olive oil, and I'm going to start measuring with my coconut oil. This tallow is a lot softer. The coconut oil is actually pretty hard, and you know, I had to use some strength to dig into it there. But this tallow is nice and soft and creamy feeling to dig out of the bucket. Then finally I'm gonna pour in the olive oil. Well, that actually took a lot longer than I expected. Having to do all the precise measuring actually made it so it took me a while to kind of get all these oils and water and lye measured out. I'm also quite surprised what the amount of lye is in a recipe. You know, I didn't expect it to kind of fill up that much space, so interesting. You know, there's the lye and then there's the water. So, you know. Okay, so now I need to go heat up my oils to melt all these solid oils down, and I need to mix my lye and my water outside. So I'm in my basement, so I'm gonna go quickly do those things, and then I will come back. Okay, we're all mixed up. I have the lye water here, and I have my oils all melted together here. I was actually surprised at how long this process took. The oils, I needed to put it in the microwave for 2 minutes total to get them to melt down. They actually took quite a bit of heat to melt. And then the lye, I was really shocked how hot the lye water got. I know that, you know, all the recipes they talk about, you know, the water's gonna get hot, you want to make sure things don't burn, but I was surprised, you know, like I added it slowly like the recipe said, and it got hot. It was like, you know, you didn't want to be holding the outside of the container too long, or else you could already feel like the heat coming through onto your hands. It's snowy right now, so I use the snow to cool this down a little bit faster, but it definitely seems like, you know, you might have to do something to cool down the lye a bit to get it to the same temperature as the oils. This recipe calls for the the temperature to be in the 100 to 110 range. And so, you know, I'm crossing my fingers that I've measured it properly, but it seems like they're both about there. You know, and also when I feel the outside, like they really do feel a lot more similar now than what they felt like when I first started putting them together. Okay, so now here's the part that I'm paranoid about, the what exactly is light trace, and also splattering my face with soap batter. So wish me luck that I don't do that, but this is when the magic happens, right? So the instructions were to blend it for a minute or two and then let it sit for 4 to 5 minutes, and then kind of just, you know, do a pattern like that until it gets to light trace. I feel like it's currently at light trace because, you know, I saw it thicken, I saw it emulsify, and it actually is kind of running in streams rather than just drops, which is, you know, different than how the oil was when I first started. But, you know, first time soap maker, so I'm slightly paranoid, and this is one of the things that I could mess up, not fully emulsifying the water and the oils. So I want to keep going and see if I can actually like see it thicken a bit. I also I don't recommend goggles because you really can't see anything through them. They are very bad for visibility. I really need to get some proper clear safety goggles so I can actually see things like light trace. But yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna give this a little bit more of the hand blender because, you know, worst case scenario, I just have to pour something a little bit lumpier, and, you know, I'm more confident working with cake batter than I am with having lye and oil separated soap. So here we go. So I can see why she recommended that you stir it and then you let it sit for a couple minutes, because what just happened there is after it sat for a little bit, some of the water came up to the surface, and then, you know, it happened so slowly that I didn't necessarily see the color change, but as soon as I started blending it again, I saw the color change, which, you know, it should be a little bit more consistent, and now the color's a lot creamier, so I think that I probably didn't have it fully emulsified there. And so I'm going to let it sit for another minute or two here and then see if another quick burst on the blender is going to, you know, keep it a pretty similar creamy color, and then I'm going to pour it into the mold. Disaster! What I was not wanting to happen. Came prepared. Paper towels. That scared, you know, some, like, a little poop out of me, so didn't hurt myself. But, yeah, pretty glad that I'm doing this in the basement. Okay, there we go. Now it's finally thickening. That is definitely... So this is not light trace. This is it turning to soap. So this is when I gotta make the magic happen. I got these cute little hearts, and then since soap has to cure for 4 to 6 weeks, these might be done in time for Valentine's Day. So I'm gonna make up some of these. This is a 3-pound batch too. Okay. Got a dozen of those. And then I want to try some of these, because these when I did them as the bath bombs were super cute. So be fun to see what these look like as soaps. Hopefully they'll hold more of their details. Kind of cute little flowers and stars and hearts. Before we move on to my milk carton mold, which I think is slightly funny, but I like the size. Like, you know, a square cut from that I think would be actually a nice bar of soap. So see how it works out. You know, first batch, no big loss. If this doesn't work out and I'm unhappy with it, I'm not gonna cry over it. Well, that didn't use that much of my batter. I don't know if you guys can see. There's still quite a bit in there. I need to get a 3-pound loaf mold. I forgot my spatula. This would be the time to have a spatula, but well, only slightly disastrous. Not too bad. So the last step that it calls for here is that you are supposed to insulate them and then leave them for 24 hours. So what I did here on these little ones is I just threw extra molds on top just to protect the towel, and I threw one of those dirty paper towels on there. So I found a towel that has a bunch of holes in it, and I'm just gonna put it to bed. Feels nice to get all that safety gear off. So my final thoughts on this, first time, you know, actually first time, I didn't cheat and go do something else and then do this as my on-camera first time. The light trace and, you know, the blending it till fully emulsified, I'd say that having done it, my takeaway on it is everyone always talks about it and how it's going to look. Like, you know, the light traces, it'll leave a line that you can't see, which I was always like, if you can't see it, like, you know. But having done it, I can understand why when I watch other people's soap making videos, they kind of just, they do it, and then they just stop. No one's like going and, you know, testing trace, it seems. And it's because I definitely felt the change when I was like, oh, I think it's done, and then I did it some more and I felt it thicken up in a way that, like, it had slowly thickened, you know, the way just pure oil would thicken if you were beating it, and then it got to a point that it thickened past that, and that was the point at which, at least with my bad goggles, I could finally see what they call light trace, which is the line that instantly disappears. So I feel that doing more soap making, you know, once I get more of a feel for it, I'm gonna know when is the time to stop blending it because of the feel, and I can understand why with the soap making instructions that's something that they can't necessarily describe, and why it always seemed when I was trying to understand what people were saying of when to stop, why it was always kind of confusing, because, you know, hard to use language to describe something that is very, like, intuitive feeling. Another thing that I didn't necessarily expect, and no one ever talks about it, is when I was just washing everything up, it was actually really difficult to wash up. I had to use like way more soap than I normally use, because basically the soap that was there was just oil. Like in the way that it washed out, it was like washing out a pan that was, like, you know, filled with lard or something. So to get it to not kind of have a little bit of a greasy finish on it, it actually took more soap than I thought it would, because I was like, oh, I'm just washing soap out. Maybe I don't even need soap. But I did just wash it out. I didn't like wipe it with a paper towel first. And I know in some soap making videos that I watched, people did actually, you know, clean out their containers first. So not a complete failure so far. I mean, we'll still see. I feel like I haven't failed yet, but obviously 24 hours from now when I come and I try to unmold everything is when I find out if I actually did, you know, mess it up and not actually get it fully emulsified. But it was thickening in these molds as I was kind of coming and wrapping them up. So I think I did it. I don't think I messed it up. You know, I had to do this basic recipe to start, but I'm excited to try to add some coloring and to add some scent. You know, I gotta look back through my textbook and see what they recommend next. But I think that the next recipe was talking about trying to do coloring of a little bit of the soap and then swirling it into your loaf. So I'm excited to try that and see how that goes, as long as I didn't mess this up, because that means then I'm back to trying to get this one. Also, for the time that it is supposed to take, the recipes always say to give yourself 2 hours. I started making the actual soap, like the measuring it out and everything, at 11, and when I finished this up and then went to go clean, I checked the clock and it was 12:15. So, you know, it took me a half an hour to get my stuff together because I was digging for things, but you know, it is reasonable to say it would have taken me 15 minutes to gather all my stuff, and then, you know, it's reasonable to say that my washing took another 15 minutes. So, you know, totally into that kind of 2-hour time frame. I definitely feel that I can get this whole process down to an hour, especially like the blending. I think, you know, once I'm more confident with that, you know, you just do it, you're good to go. But I feel like the measuring of the soap and then like the melting of the oils and everything, that's something that's always gonna take a little bit of time. So I can understand why that's kind of, you know, that's part of how long it takes to make soap. I was fairly confident going into this because of the research that I'd done in regards to working with lye, but I was surprised at how sticky the lye crystals were. You know, they stuck to the spoon, they stuck to the cup that I measured the lye into. You know, I was concerned after having worked with the lye how easy it would be to get a few little lye crystals kind of lost into the abyss, and because of that I'm probably going to want to continue making my soap down here in my laundry room rather than up in my kitchen where my kids are around, just because, you know, made me paranoid how easy it seemed for, you know, like a little bit to get flicked, and then maybe not realize that it, you know, was hanging out somewhere. So that, having worked with the lye, I'm back to being extra cautious about it, and obviously glad that I wore all my safety gear because I splashed it. Oh my god, could have been a disaster. So I'm back 24 hours later and I've cut my soap. I ripped it out of my container here, and I'd say for me, I think that it wasn't hard enough, and that might be because it was totally closed in rather than open at the top to kind of let some air get out of there. This probably would have been a little bit better for cutting because it was pretty sticky and soft. Like as I was trying to open it, the sides were falling in. You know, like I found some scraps and I was able to like form it into an actual little like soap ball. So this I probably should have left a little bit longer, but I got some of the little mold things out, and these I'm still gonna leave the rest of them probably until tomorrow, just because, you know, they'll pop out easily being in the silicone mold. But I'm excited, they look fun, and you know, it looks like I successfully made soap. So this is gonna get put up on a rack and left to dry for 4 to 6 weeks to make sure that it is got all the lye kind of worked out of it. And then I'm gonna be excited to try using my own homemade soap. So pretty happy, excited to get trying on some more complicated recipes that are fun, but I think it turned out pretty good.